If your fantasy team is stuck at the bottom of the standings, or maybe kind of in limbo in the middle there, but you're just not sure how to make it better and the waiver wire isn't cutting it, you've got to get active. Go out and make some smart trades. I know it may not feel right going out and trying to buy a player who has been struggling early in the season, but you might be very thankful later. If you love watching baseball and playing fantasy baseball, you probably love playing MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. Well, the best place to get those stubs without paying full price is MMOAH.com. On top of their already discounted price, you get an extra 5% off by using code ENDGAME. You can build your perfect Diamond Dynasty even faster by clicking the link in the description below and using our promo code. And to start out, let's go big. How about the reigning World Series MVP, Corey Seager? Seager has been an elite slugger for years, basically ever since he came into the majors. The only knock on him is injuries. He's missed huge chunks of games. Even last year, though he had a great season for fantasy, did still miss some time. This year, no problems on the health front, just for some reason he's not hitting. His batting average is just .235, and while his expected batting average is better at .255, still for him, that is super low. This is a player who the last 2 seasons has had one of the very best expected batting averages in the majors. In fact, the last 4 seasons, he's had an XBA and an XWOBA in the top 10 percentile. Not making up for it with power either. Only has 1 home run in the month of May. Look, the Rangers just put up 15 runs in a game, and somehow he didn't drive in a single run. And he needs to come through with some power because, unlike a lot of shortstop, he's not going to help you with speed. He definitely will not steal you any bases. So is this a World Series hangover? Maybe the long postseason caught up to him? Just a slow start? Is this Rangers offense being affected by some of these injuries here? Josh Jung has been out for a while. Wyatt Langford just hit the IL. Well, clearly not, because I think their offense on the whole seems all right. Seager is not doing terribly, but just very underwhelming for somebody who's drafted typically in the top 20 or 25 in fantasy drafts. You expect him to be one of your best hitters. I do think that he'll turn it around. Of course, there's nothing here yet, hopefully not at all, health-wise to be worried about. And so really, it just seems like a matter of time. And just imagine when they do get Josh Jung back. Imagine if Evan Carter and or Wyatt Langford actually do start hitting too. I don't expect that you get a major discount here because of the fact that he is the reigning MVP for the World Series. Of course, he's a known commodity in fantasy community for years, but still, people get impatient. Sometimes you flip somebody who is just being a little bit more productive right now and get a guy like him instead. Another shortstop / second baseman this year, who's a longtime veteran, multiple-time All-Star, should be Mr. Consistency, and yet he just hasn't gotten going yet. It's Xander Bogaerts in San Diego. I will just say, just to get this out of the way with, I don't think switching positions has anything to do with this. I mean, come on, this guy's been around a while. Just because he moved over from short to second doesn't mean anything. What's going on with Bogaerts? Why is somebody who, again, traditionally has one of the better batting averages in the league suddenly struggling? One thing that's different for him is they've had him batting leadoff for much of the season, but that also has just recently changed. The Padres just did pick up Luis Arias in a trade and immediately put him in the leadoff spot. We're also seeing Jurickson Profar, who's having a great season, hit leadoff as well. So now Bogaerts, who had been hitting just .212 at the leadoff spot, is now bumped down to either 5th or 6th most nights. That seems to actually be working a little bit because this season he's hitting .300 when batting 5th. In fact, just when he was hitting a low point, he's picked up a 7-game hit streak. That got snapped with an 0 for 4 tonight, so that batting average is still pretty low, not much power to speak of, and also he's another one of these middle infielders who doesn't really steal you that many bases. He will get you, hopefully, double digits at least this year. The speed is ticking very gradually down, but what we have to worry about is the power, because that has not come through. Now, just last year, Bogaerts was one shy of going 20-20, meaning 19 homers and 19 steals. Well, so far, he's 2-2. That's not what we want to see. I think that eventually the steals will at least get to the maybe 15-ish range, but homers, we do expect more. Well, one thing that does concern me is so far his trouble has been that he's not hitting the fastball. And this is usually an excellent fastball hitter. His batting average is 190 against fastballs. So you've got to wonder just for a second here, is this maybe an issue of bat speed, meaning is he losing a little bit because of age? I'm not going to go there just yet, again, because it is early in the season. Let's see things play out. Let's see him get settled in his new lineup spot and his new position in the field. Not that that matters. But look, Bogaerts, I think will be fine. This is a great time to make an offer for him because when season is all said and done, guy who can get you close to 2020 with an excellent batting average, that's the kind of guy you want. Again, he's not going to make a whole lot of highlight plays here. He's not really a big name for fantasy anymore. He's just kind of one of those solid, consistent, boring players. And when he's not performing, I can see somebody easily giving him up. Which leads me to another veteran, even more so, 36-year-old now, Paul Goldschmidt. This probably would have fit well on the panic video. I didn't even realize that now Goldie is hitting under 200 after another 0 for 4 night. That batting average is down to 197. On the season, just 2 home runs and 11 RBIs, and his WRC plus is at 65. For those who don't know, weighted runs created, you're supposed to be at least at 100. That's league average. 65 for a guy who is a former all-star year after year after year. Now in this case, age definitely could be the issue. At some point, even the best hitters will start to decline, right? And hey, maybe we're seeing that with him. But just last season, he hit 25 home runs, 80 RBIs, and his hard hit rate was one of the best of his career and one of the best in the majors, 50%. Look, I know I also been saying the St. Louis Cardinals are just a bad offense, which it's hard to deny. I kind of don't want really any piece of this offense for the most part because there aren't many pieces of their offense that I find even remotely interesting because the upside players are not producing and the guys like Arenado and Goldie are underwhelming. But there comes a point, even if this is one of Goldie's more disappointing seasons in terms of production of the late stage of his career, he's got to get better than this. I mean, he's not going to hit 200 for the rest of the season. In other words, he's got nowhere to go but up. You've already got the bad, I hope, most of the bad out of the way. I think if you can get in on him now before that positive regression hits, you should at least get enough to be pleased if you can buy low. All right, now let's get some youth here, and let's go to the pitching side of things. Bobby Miller of the Los Angeles Dodgers has been on the IL for a while, only had a couple of starts under his belt this season. His first start was great, exactly what fantasy owners wanted, and then the rest of the starts, not so good. But before he hit the IL, wound up giving up 7 earned runs over 11 2/3 innings, and he hasn't been seen in about a month. There was a ton of hype on Bobby Miller before the season started because as a rookie, he was really solid, 3.76 ERA, 1.10 whip, and that was over 22 starts. High-profile prospect on a high-profile team like the Dodgers. I mean, this is a guy who a lot of people kind of sat back and said, this could be my ace, or at the very least, a very strong SP2. Now, he could still be that. I don't know if he'll reach anybody's expectations for him. But look, when you're on the shelf that long and the numbers look bad, people, again, get impatient. I think that we're going to see close to what we saw last year. And hey, that could be a number 2 starting pitcher in this landscape. This is where I would say go out and field offers. Somebody who's desperate need for pitching. Sure, they're glad that they're having Miller possibly come back soon. Looks like he's starting his rehab assignment. But man, it's going to be hard for them to pass up on somebody who's got great numbers so far, like a Ronhard Suarez for Philadelphia, a John Gray for the Rangers, maybe even a Cutter Crawford or Tanner Houck for Boston. And I like those guys, but are we sure that they're going to outperform Bobby Miller the rest of the season? And trust me, as a longtime fantasy baseball player, I understand the thought process. Why would I have a guy on the injured list for this long, and as soon as he's ready to come back, trade him away? Look, that's how you might think, but not everybody will think that way. And again, if you've had one of your very high drafted starting pitchers out for a month, you're probably hurting at starting pitching. So you could use somebody who has been productive, who is currently healthy. So along those same lines, let's talk about another pitcher who missed a chunk of time, Framber Valdez of the Astros. Now he is back and has made a couple of starts, but hasn't looked like himself. Right now sitting at a 3.97 ERA, 1.41 whip, and less than a K per inning. He's coming off a pretty bad outing where he gave up 5 runs in 5 1/3 inning, including a couple of home runs. And that's exactly when I like to try to buy a player like that. So I'm going to compare this situation here with Valdez to a guy like Kevin Gausman. Now, you remember Gausman didn't miss time. He was hurt coming into the season in the spring. Looked like he might hit the IL, but avoided it. But then looked really rough the first couple of starts. He didn't look like himself. So I threw it out there a couple weeks into the season. Buy low on Gausman, take advantage of the people who are panicking, and if you did, you are thankful because last 2 starts, he's been great. If there's a chance you can get Valdez at a cheap price, this is the perfect time to do it. There's a small window that will probably close very soon when he starts to look like himself, which is a workhorse. Look, Valdez not necessarily the most exciting, and that strikeout rate is good but not great. But really, the main appeal here is that he is a workhorse. The last 2 seasons, he's been among the leaguers in innings pitched. And because of that, he's also been among the league leaders in wins and strikeouts. Volume matters so much for a starting pitcher. He hasn't had it because he was out 3 weeks on the IL. And now that he's back, he's going to deliver it. And then I feel like we need a risky bullpen pick in here. Well, look, Pete Fairbanks is now also starting his rehab. Should be back soon. A lot of people are just kind of done with him, especially some Rays fans. Somehow, Tampa Bay, that Rays team, has the worst bullpen ERA in the bigs. That's supposed to be their specialty, right? It's finding whatever guy, put him in the bullpen, and making them look great. But yet somehow all of their guys have struggled, and that includes Fairbanks, the closer. Before hitting the shelf, in his 7 innings pitched this season, 8 hits, 8 walks, and 8 runs allowed, 7 earned. And this wasn't one or just 2 bad outings inflating his numbers. He's been more bad than good. His last one, right before getting on the injured list, was the worst of them all, which led to his now infamous press conference post-game where he admitted to having an all-encompassing type of suck performance. Look, I can't say that Fairbanks has been the most consistent, reliable closer ever in his career. I mean, injuries in and out also as far as performance, up and down. You never really quite know what you're getting, but I feel like we do know for sure he's going to have the job back because nobody else has really picked up the slack for him. Jason Adam, who kind of inherited the job, he hasn't been good either. There's nobody else who really feels like they are reliable. Just kind of a malaise here overall with the Rays because their offense too isn't really performing. Not sure what's going on, but look, at this point, Fairbanks is still the closer. It's still a team that knows how to win games. He's going to get you saves, and I feel like he's going to get back to what he was doing before. And while this has nothing to do with fantasy, I will just say I found out doing a little bit of digging here on Fairbanks in this research, found out that he's someone you're probably going to want to pull for personally, even if you're not a Rays fan or even if you don't have him in fantasy. Pete Fairbanks and his wife have a foundation called the Fairbanks Strikeout for Turner Syndrome. So every time he strikes out a batter, him and his wife and the Rays will donate $100 to this. They lost their daughter just earlier last year, and so this is something that I think we can all say is a good cause. I'm going to put the link down there in the description below if it's something you're interested in checking out. Those players can probably be had for cheap on the trade market because they aren't quite living up to expectations. I got some more players that are definitely struggling this year. Maybe you shouldn't be in on them. These are my panic players for this coming week.